When I the John Samson, I went to the bay, Biajung, a chicken line if laboners nothing. Twang the falla, Nchoji Nkwi, line the figure, my ranting and dobong, that's a Indian singers Naiganem, I Professor Nchoji Nkwi. And then I feel as Nimbes Hokum to food to come, as mean line as Missy Besa Hokum, Isændo Sakom, na Komnga. Being there is no can be not send us a comma, Wokoma, Kinga Yam Yamazaka, Akoma, Professor Nchoji Nkwi, Zigvikino Anten Ndobong.
Thank you, young.
For na, when been a send us a comptona, Kumakins the tia comma, send us the tia, Akoma.
Yanambo. Ce temps comme Isændo le foliage na du noi bam dans comme l'air face bam comme etika group un sort na bomoa na tweŋ na bafoot na quite a number of people in Donga Mantle. History narrates that the Tika king died leaving several sons and several children. And there arose a dispute as to who the right son will be to take over their father. And therefore the dispute, according to some historical and oral sources, led to the split of the Tika group, and probably the son, probably called Kom, from where our name is derived, gathered a few his own followers and left and migrated south. And this dispute occurred in the upper Mbam River area, around Adamawa. And so the Kom, probably the leader, probably called Kom, rallied his followers and migrated, reaching all the way to Ndo A, and probably he developed a much more progressive attitude, leading to demographic increase of his population, and eventually the story tells us that he died. And when he died, he actually gave him the signals that some sign will appear and lead them out to the promised land. And probably this the leader who actually led the people was Nando, his sister. And probably that his sister Nando, who actually she crossed over to Nkal, because Nkal was actually an independent group. And the Nando recruited a few able people from Nkal. Nkal and so, because when Nkal and so on like the Messi non-car. So come for Ganka, the really and ADNG, Bama, near Bena, Puna, and left from. We get another enough finta and Bena and finta. Olo na bear. Look, I
got him cool.
I could Ben and I'm for my Monty. We recruited Canadian car. I don't call now yellow and Andy and Jesus come. So, Nika tends the guys I like them. Now, we're count actually. I Ndo teacher. Yes, I Ndo teacher.
Tinambo Prof. Jana yeah. Tina na rente unlo nine. Kana bamta. Babena come and jump to Vangum. Tia Kana gin to Jenny Buzzing Mangan and jump to Vangum Nakia.
Yes, then I'm jumped to do a Vangum Mati. There were other dangers. But let me state this, that come spiritual priesthood, the people who perform the rites and rituals up to a certain time were Ndo teacher.
Okay.
Right.
Teacher.
Boma probably na follow number na Vangum Naki, but probably Ndo teacher was actually involved and led them all the way to Lycom. Now the twist is this, that because they provide the religious services, and at one time the religious services of the Ndo teacher was not efficacious.
Okay. And
luckily, the story as Nanju being Nanli Ndo teacher called man and Jansen. Genji along and likely. But it could not be. It couldn't do teacher and that mind down. A land mine a chaff. A chaff, my carry the main. Call become mine. Ndo teacher.
Geneva Gallen like Prof. Mumpana, or Bemokum Ndo teacher. Tina Ndo teacher, only a young Nando teacher. So say, I will Lumum, I will Lumen Soxama, adds my Vadana.
No, listen, Nambo, well, no, you can't.
More, Wuliki, one it's Nala.
Okay. Itina as well, Mondoma, Bomaliku. I will one trala. Boma, Uncle Bena to Isændo Kom Boma key. Boma, after the destruction of many of the Kom people in Babel Sea for the tragic incident, right?
Yeah.
Kom had to build their progress and their kingdom, etc., etc. So the best way was to recruit women. The few Kom people marry women, whether in Carl or Kujum or whoever. But the three tribes, the three lineage that came to Kom was Nkwi, Itinala, Unyabera, na Chaf. No, but that is, no, I actually teacher. Teacher be because I'm thinking, and he could not he could not function and provide the religious services. The Achaf came to, we hired the Achaf people from Basmen, Tagana Kogi, New Ikuanga. Then the trilogy that we have always made, Nkwi, Achaf, Nkwi, Itinala, na Chapa. Or why in Yamvin, no will come to us. No, for you know. But all clans can be traced to a woman. Because I love woman. Ndosɨ. But let me say that there are probably 30 to 40 clans in Kom.
Okay.
And they came from different directions. Awum, Ambana. But technically, we Kom. Hopefully, Ndo A. She will virtually establish a new lineage or a new clan. For example, with Kujum, Avum, Ambana, Ayang, Njinasung, Wanka Njinasung. Njinasung is a branch of Titichua.
Okay.
Let me tell the story. Because Titichua was a very hardworking woman, at least, who is basically the founder of the Titichua lineage, to Titichua clan. And he had a sister. And his sister was always very agile and she lazy. So during the famine, he came to her sister, Titichua, and asked for food. And Titichua gave. Then she came the second time. Titichua gave. He went for the third time. What Titichua did, probably no one would expect that Ndo yes, yen walate kasigi tum win teacher local the lineage actually separated Ndo Ngabala and Janasung. Not far from probably young. That is why teacher separated. I mean, and Janasung separated from teacher. Therefore, teacher Nkwi Itanala and at least there were 4 and 5 of them. But increasingly, because I thought the virtually 30 years of war mounted by Yu I, who expanded the Kom kingdom really in geometric proportion, or probably left what we have now. Actually, the Kom War was a human factor. We didn't wage war on a neighbor to destroy it. But we wage war to harvest human resources. Right? No, wait, I wouldn't listen, because the process of war was that if the Kom people wanted to wage war on a neighbor satellite, they will send a bundle of ashes and a bundle of camp wood to the chief of this neighbor satellite. If he chose ashes, it means he wanted war. If he chooses the bundle of camp wood, it will be the neighboring chiefs would be prepared for peace negotiation. But if he chooses the bundle of ashes, what normally do, they will define the date, the hour, and the place where the war would take place. And it permitted them to the invading forces. I mean, the group that was being invaded to get their children and women locked up in a safe place. So after the war, if they were defeated, then the warring, at least Kom warriors, will now go for the women and children, because then they will. And probably this is the way women were basically and fundamentally important for the building of the demographic figure in the Kom state. And therefore you have the lineage, the clans Avum, Ndo Tidichan and whatever, they were brought in through probably the process of coercion. As my research in 1974, we identified a minimum 30 clans that compose the Kom state.
Man kasi bia ya yong taf de galang na kana man kasi kin sikas ga alanga fe awane be kum ando asendo zu kia kin zite kom tawani wani tongte ndo titicha na ndo titicha zite tina ngbichama kom teacher ba bina teacher na wulu watina na ka bina teacher na ndo teacher na Isændo yes ma
No, teacher was part of the 3 lineages of clans that arrived Kom.
Teacher
was entrusted with the religious authority to perform rituals.
Yeah, it was.
And whenever when they failed to perform those religious functions, they were displaced from that religious function, and some Achaf came to substitute that.
Yeah, man mi valung na kia Prof. It was a mana bufin bomta mabil fatif kalina tina teacher na we na wulu mun lukuma munang vikma na kom ke nang vi si chaman kama unu lef on.
Yes, ma name be na the lu shi ko what you mean ko wainama
mabuko wainama
a jinso ba wan lu shi wa ko finji talando noma jakire noma na ya kelu anka so kom ko bi na kayen recruit angana but one thing Nkwi what me ndo teacher
ma must me yemu team if I will teacher
because there's the physics indicates, because they are normally ndo teacher, they are normally bulky, tall, and really for example my best friend Bobe Chateau ndo teacher.
Okay.
Bobe Nko. Thaddeus Nko, who died in the US. Then Ndo A.
Okay.
The genetics actually say that they were not did not just recruit them for nothing. Normally I say that probably they were mercenaries. They are the ones who help us understand the environmental conditions at the time, and probably they understand the region, and they brought up to Lycom, and then displaced Ndo A, because the Ndo A was the Ndo A fund was living in Lycom. He was eventually displaced and went to Achai.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, my film alang na kili tina Isændo ken zita kom we call Isændo so kia ken Isændo sa liye muti Isændo sa juna ma ana kom nang kali bom inu
for example, Ndo A was which I always were the aborigines of Kom, because there are no stories linking themselves to any migration history. Ndo A was there before, and actually one of their phone or two of the phones were buried in Kom.
Okay.
And he eventually moved to Achai.
Yeah. It will yamana consac na kabo e will fumse kuma ina fumse why commonly movement ne a levuta ne before ne automatica ma fata we anthropologist ma bafata califly iti wedzili wakaba fata se banse se yang vuta giantendo bon giantendo bon vuta na sanying nga kum Isændo na Ndo.
Number Isændo is the what we call the clan. And Ndo is the branches.
Okay.
For example, Vanguliku, Mariku, which is now in tweŋ. Yes. No, waka awa jama be na wai na woman be na lum so na be na ulikia makama ngang.
Okay.
You do not have point where Antwing la can kale at a point Antwing anda.
Queen?
No. Funtia. Is the line of Frontier. For Maxon, she's definitely because the lineage when the lineage is coming down, and the repeated male members makes it impossible for the Ntweng to live. The Ntweng continues based on women. For example, Ibang had no sister. He had many brothers. But the trouble that we now have in Obonya, have you heard?
Particular Prof.
Because Ibang had no sister, but he had other cousins. Then Ibanaki, when he went to Kom, he placed one of his cousins, who was not the Ntweng. By placing them, they began to reassert that they were actually part of the lineage, part of the clan. For example, my relatives, who was probably the second or the third son, who was killed. He was installed Chianingong. Have you ever heard of Chianingong?
I've heard of Chianingong.
Chianingong was whom?
No, I just heard of Chianingong. I've read something about Chianingong.
Chianingong
exactly
is Wulan Tweng years now.
Okay.
But my father cannot marry Mama Timmy Ndo Chianingong, no, or man booms now.
Okay.
When that in Chianingong, but talk lum can only suffer.
Okay.
A Sanga, birth.
Okay.
Famine.
Mm-hmm.
He ruled only for 6 months.
Wow.
Early in Kali, Juin, Isændo, Chumjala, hotel, Nchoji Nkwi.
Yeah, I think.
Yes, Juin enough. Okay, Ndo A, China, Sally, a new phone. Okay, this alone.
Unless you don't, Prof.
Pay for now.
Okay.
Mm. No, on the canon tweŋ. Early in May, 1805, the columns are fine. Then the farming and whatever.
Okay.
Then Lufuli goes to Vanya. Cabby now we untung natural. I will fatten. I wouldn't turn natural. He was not the right into
okay, we can I bomb and get a bomb tinter. I will find from
turn to phone to night.
The front of
can do the I don't. Maybe the third or the fourth one.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Manakis bufkne wente bufa bumta kana osma be memti ka fi bansem ulkese f kom mala atum okay mala afu wulumna mala wuwi mati wulumna kom mala wuwi awu atum via kom na bzu wan wankana wanim bina na wo anase Isændo ezi lui kom ifum sin na yata zili wankai an kifum si kai via bom tam kan wona thing be fum sa early mu fum mala atum
yanambo ulumna mala uwi atum via kom we na Isændo na ngai. It increases the number of lineages because it's based on the woman. Okay? No, we come kev ndo mala ulatum. It gives the child a double advantage. Boma, why we come mala ulatum? It provides the child a double advantage. Number one. Now, why when with you the titles no follow to nang. Oh, a coffee be you come for a bone way. That is what in the that is the way I define the double advantage, that a child can inherit from the mother's side and he can actually inherit from the father's side.
Yeah, alanga mati alanga bomta mufu sanchwe wine will come careful sa come wine lumna fumala wu wine so wine we z antene come mama da wadi mufu mana mama Isændo kan be mama uliki one it's na la yin boni kinta makama fatendo wine na vu ke buso wine na vu anga ke na ike wine va herbs ma abungana do mala ulatum ene busno Isændo ka une benaga
Isændo na ngwen
au latum we u
no bom we ulatum
abu we ulatum
timen la kapi timen la ko tu na ngwen yun the paternity.
Yes. Yamka wumbe na Isændo na ngwe na ka we nu tong na Isændo ka ba mani be ikwi
yana ban nambo okay ban kan Isændo ntong tambana o tong te Isændo avuma avum Isændo non so o no Isændo non guti
aha okay
dan kwan vina na wingmen
no wingmen
am guti
okay okay
because I want to emphasize now the building of the lineage in Kom is built on the woman. Right. And it is focused on the biology. People born of the same womb, sharing the same blood. You see, maybe I mentioned the fact that there is one human group which says that if you do not have a woman that delivers you, you cannot own the nationality of this group. For example, if you do not have a Jewish mother, you cannot be a Jew. Right?
Yeah.
You cannot.
But that's for people that are attached to matrilineal systems, right?
No, well, yes, for sure. But what I'm trying to indicate that the biological factor is important. For example, like I just said, if you don't have a Jewish mother, you cannot be a Jew. Right? Then it means all, again, when I started this conversation, I emphasize the factor that women have the mitochondria, which probably traces us, helps us trace our biological origin. Right?
Yeah. Wanimi be weli be wokum Isændo teacher na ngana wa yengul ndo teacher ka yenkeli o ka kanta zafi on wingwe ngate gas bati really cute or Isændo sale ma ka o kika anini na ngana zafi ngani ya wo ngana tin ne kelna wo kaza kanta na wo ente mu Isændo fana
lovely. Mama, one it na la ndiala.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Because the bone na gallon no gallon. Na be na we jala kabela don afo.
Don you afo. Okay.
Don you afo bo man uncle. What this is one thing we come is unique, is that come people from the breakup and eventually arriving and she and Laikom stopped the further split in Kom.
Okay.
Do you know that ndosɨ it's not noble and a friend of Kumambong established a chiefdom in Bam.
Okay.
Wait, can call it a chieflet. Chieflet I will it nala lukuno thing ndosɨ. Two line for full keys so bang. One le gum to contain a lee cool menage call full a Laikom. Because ndosɨ the Kumambong were exiled by Junabo the First. Exiled to Bambui.
I'm gonna besɨ a Prof.
Well, they wanted to assert their authority. Then Kumambong exiled them in Bambui. He lives there for several years with ndosɨ, and Kumambong, before he died, he asked them to come. So Kumambong came and stayed in Bam, and ndosɨ stayed in it's not in Bam.
Kema basakoma.
Yes, just
Alima.
Yes, Alima. Yes. Ba Ndo A and Bam ba ndosɨ ka fa ba cannot no way in a hill you. But when Kumambong when for Junabo the first died, Kumambongs left Bam and went up and succeeded him. But the interesting thing is that Kom was not ruled by Kwifon. It was ruled by Menang. And probably if you visit the palace, there's a section of the palace called Ndo A.
Okay.
Yeah. The interesting thing is that Kumambong ndosɨ developed their Kwifon during the exile. And then he came when once they came back, and Kumambong became the fund. The Kwifon took over Menang. Kwifon was introduced by Menang. The present structure and functions were actually invented by Kumambong. But the similar one was in Alimu. And ndosɨ began to assert its authority and to rival even Kumambong, his friend. So a plan was hatched when they went down and took the Kwifon of ndosɨ and came back to Laikom and dashed that Kwifon from to Mbasnaku for Mbasnaku. Then ndosɨ for a very long time that compound was abandoned.
The compound.
And one, the compound in Adam was abandoned. Then one Paul Ngong, I don't know whether you have known,
No.
was Paul Ngong was a nephew of Gus. He came to the palace about in the 50s because the man had run crazy, and he told the phone that he was suffering from mental disorder because the chieflet of Ngasobi had been abandoned. Okay. So the phone probably for alone told him, if this is so, if this is the cause of your mental disorder, please go and build a compound. He went, built a compound, and he restored himself. And many some of the title Tenala people began, to warm up to see. To see the Tenala chieflets restored. But why I'm telling this story is that one, Bali, the Balis have several factions. Balayam,
Balinyonga,
Baligajsing, Balinyong, Baliwad,
Balikumbat.
Exactly. These were actually the same Bali. They broke off and they established their hegemony. But Kom prevented this kind of split. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was Maksubufkum. Alanke na even based on a kunkuma saying those it was angba emijun na bufuna one young kogi bamla no say yamuna na mana kana mafu Isændo fana say te inu na mukana be ma wokum ejima be na tinta wala kana aga dangali kisa konsa dangsa kana alang kyang angantia thing so uluvung ko gem amibam uluvung ngba yum kanjino na bombatam kisa kai Isændo na mab sungina say te ngiga sungina.
No, basically you are in search of your biological origin. And you start by your mother. Where did your mother come from? Right?
Yeah.
And she is the one who gives you the lineage belongingness. She is the one who gives you the rights and obligation. And that, for example, through your mother, you can assert certain rights and obligations. Do you know that the duty of every Kom married person, the woman, is to give land to the wife when she once is married.
Okay.
And the land is the land of the husband's lineage or untwin.
Okay.
Therefore, the Kom people, if you marry a woman, give them land, because the woman will farm the land and feed her children and feed you, the husband. Now, when your children are grown up and the children want to build, they can only build on the mother's land. And the mother's land is given as part of the marriage contract. Bomania bena wabale ke luam na nava. Ovan yes for luam na nava. Therefore, meaning that once become rule matrilineal rule of succession, the woman receives land and the landed property of her of the husband's lineage, and is passed on to his children, to our children. But the landed property that not the compound. One, the father cannot give you the compound if the father had buried his mother and buried his sister on some of the relatives. The father can give the compound, can let the children inherit when this land has not been consecrated by the blood of
his relatives,
of members of his lineage. So one itala waka abuju abe bova. Alo bova ma bova women jumped and women nomina we nava yes. So to me, I always advise that you can give the property to your children if you avoid certain conditions. Nama pala kom. Kung namun fuso ingam. I'm my black women now woman day. Black women jump to Yamating or ndosɨ, because now that the ground has been consecrated. And therefore moved to the lineage of your father.
Okay, that's a good one.
Therefore, technically, that because you are young people who are out there, some of you have acquired landed property, you have been building houses, you are in America, you have probably a house. Hopefully, I will now come every times that we know which you are back. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No, that cannot happen.
That cannot happen.
Because
yeah,
sure. the rules are saying the landed no. Wamala we were full ventures, hopefully Ndo one kala United States because I want mortgage.
Yeah.
Right? Wabu women have that thing. Wabu women jump to that thing. Women hopefully waka our full so wine. Right?
Okay. Yeah. I will find busy when I got okay.
Yes, but my was hopefully one cut actually sought the Bobedra. He built his house on the hill. And he carefully bought a house for his brother, Kinney's father.
Yeah.
And he told him that this is our family property. Car was that in
yeah. No, yeah. So yeah. So my was that and senior fairly and Lina no and Grimula be for being coming the Grim Caves Grimula be thing. No, I think from all Kings on Kings Chica better now. If you listen, told them to think in the chair better like you. So Ben and Gaga went from Willa Bay, I've been killing me what in the link. Okay, give me for some more. Yeah, it won't go as it's healing now. That was going to think long before we before we say one more word.
No, yeah, you are paying mortgage.
Yeah. Basi atuma a prof awul ka ona be no na no van fa na awul ka na be musu jiabe jiabe le bangema
bom ya awa wan kwa na wan na bom na ma ke na wan tele wan fa de ka be ona je
ala be na okuru jangela de basi jiabe ka
ma comme tradition timbe na Young with was ndosɨ jabe.
It was big. We actually get a little like one as my phone obey. Come as I jumped him the you uni just graph now. Uni turn that to the classic is ya better now.
No, boom. When they're for some man. A bank account.
Yeah, it would. I wanted to be too, but I can even my concern zawali fakti science be getting cannot think kwana abo ye kama when I in funda when commonly elevate can not difficult to bufte be educate na besa tama uma matimi besa fasa na ando bongos na be e si tangi besa o kan besa tem besa wala bon tofa to tem livre c'est bon to te bufte little fugi que não se juice drum anka na kenia na in China just na ni yama ayong na kano junga a prof mun kawi na Afrika li weli be takaiva fasa twitanga na kana lana
ai mun kawi kwate yeah, because the most important thing is the conflict of that matrilineal succession brings along. And probably if people do not understand the fundamental basis of the matrilineal succession, and we cannot understand the rights and obligations.
Okay.
We will always. Okay. But one thing in common is the greed among the successors, where the successors come and disobey probably the traditional rules and regulations. For example, the successors cannot take over the farms that your father gave to your mother. Because the common rule is once he married your mother, he must give land, that property, and she will farm and feed her children. And if one of the children or sons wants to be, will be on the farm. But some of the greedy successors come and they drive the deceased wife and sell the land. Let me tell you my typical case. Our compound where I grew up, the successor came, split the compound in 3 pieces and sold the compound where we all grew up. I'm sorry, it's not washing that linen in public, but virtually the successors split actually in 2 pieces, 3 or 4 pieces, and sold to foreigners. And I came, he told me he had sold the land, and I had to retrieve that part of our compound. Yeah, but the cost and the value of land has actually made some of the successors a little bit greedy, and probably by refusing to respect traditions, and that is not good, because the social climate is completely disrupted.
Yeah. One bit I want to be seva na mesigi tu tank na alanga thing I would have big it was in books times that ever fik eloquence mayena I was in ganch in the community kano alanga ama ben jeune tenta injimo be komna makana I wo atu wo kulum kuting antenne kom no mo tum relum ki kom mo kalib fnai makana wo takeva les zig antenne ndo bon fi base when I the jam samsa ayong na keno jung tay zig antenne ndo bon line na base to was na base kum Isændo sakom na Isændo sakom makan zitien nova luin wakiza kwa wuchu video na bufuna wa ma free Isændo ika khadza sesi ngwisa va tawa Ntondo lui kazanwa ris ma free Isændo li khadza Isændo na kinga tin khadza alwa wa ma futing malandwa atum ona khadza wanje ombali ze Isændo livli fuzikoni Isændo filia akom livli kine wana rali yanga ma fugi kuma tumnai azanga bala Isændo na bongchi akamo mukise leng looking from no ajung benale na figure melang us na yena antendo bon fibesa wo kum nchine kom fibesa wo kum no jima be akom tinta oju de vumenta bogos na professor Nchoji Nkwi mati non jinsigana mo lani anthropology to be business na ayong na kia us na fi yenam
Don't forget mana wana be mena bana sama wana abana gobondoma wale wombana wana be don't forget mai wana be wana sama wana mana gobondoma wale wombana wondona fata don't forget mana